Hey, podcast internet place. This is
Hello.
the BroJ podcast. How?
Welcome.
Um, I'm OJ, and I belong to you.
And I'm the bro, and I don't. So leave me alone.
Ah, perfect. Welcome. This is the a number of the podcasts.
Yes.
I did an experiment.
Okay.
Um, with we're like almost two podcasts ahead now, so it's hard to say like is it if it was the last one. The tenth podcast where you were on vacation.
Oh yeah.
Um, so what I did is I just took a clip from our very first attempt,
Uh-huh.
the beginning where it was interesting,
To say the least.
and I mean I love that clip, but I didn't really tell anyone about it. I didn't like put it in Discord or anything like that, and just like I'm just gonna watch the views to see
Hmm.
what happens, and like for several days it was just zero, right? I was sort of
Yeah.
expecting something like that, and then there was a view. And so what that tells me is that somebody out there at least got an alert. They're not just waiting for a Discord notification,
Well, that's good.
um, or some poor unfortunate soul that
I just
like
happened across it somehow.
they fell asleep watching YouTube and it auto went into that video.
Mm,
But
fair.
we might actually have one genuinely interested maybe person.
We ought to look at
Probably.
the analytics because it'll tell us whether it was a search
What
or.
I've tried, it says there's not enough data to generate analytics.
Oh, dang it. Okay, fair enough.
Ah, I love that.
Well, hello, one viewer.
Oh yeah. So we're doing a podcast. Let's start with the fake news thing. We haven't
Okay.
done that in a while, and I didn't hit enter, did I?
No. Are you
Podcast
going
chat.
to?
Yes, there. Sorry. I had to
Okay.
find the right channel.
Okay. Here we go. I'm just going to start off reading them. Ducks declare duck pond an independent nation, demand bread tax from park visitors. I mean,
Red
reasonable.
tags. Oh, anyone who visits. Okay, I was like trying to figure out how that works. So anyone who visits the park
Yeah.
have to give a little bit of bread,
Yeah.
or you're out of there.
Or they're sending the geese after you.
Right, right. It reminds me of like Little John and Robin Hood, who's guarding the river.
Oh, there you go. Did
You
you
ain't.
did you have like outings to the park to go feed the ducks when you were younger?
Yeah, yeah, I did
Okay.
with my dad. Well, right. So my parents were divorced, and so when my dad would have his time to spend with us, he
Mm-hmm.
lived in the tiniest little studio apartment. It was so small.
Yeah.
Right, just the one room essentially, and a bathroom. And so what we would do is we'd just go out. He'd take us out to the park, and we'd feed ducks almost every time.
Okay. Oh, so you went way more than me.
I did a
But
lot.
but it was like a regular outing for our family for a long time.
Was it like one of those Sunday afternoon sort of things?
Yeah, kind of. I don't know if it was actually Sunday or if it was like Saturday or something, but it was like one of those like weekend afternoons. Let's just get everybody out of the stuffy house and go do something where I can kind of relax and they can entertain themselves for a bit. And you'd go
And,
buy a giant bag of Wonder Bread and go
oh yeah, the Wonder
throw them
Bread.
at the
Yep,
ducks.
yeah. And at the Dicks, the ducks and the Dicks.
Yeah, the ducks and the dicks and the geese and the goose.
The ducks were always pretty not like I don't remember being traumatized ever, considering how often I went there.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I don't even remember many geese at the pond we went to. Maybe there was some sort of effort to keep them out, but like it was always lots of ducks. They didn't like attack us or fight, and they're pretty calm and chill. So
A lot of people do have those traumatic experiences.
I don't. Yes, but I could see this. I think I've seen videos. I could see. I could see
Yeah, I
ducks
could see it
doing it.
happening. Okay, next one. The scientists discover new planet entirely made of lost dryer socks. Missing sock mystery solved.
Wait, how many times
Finally.
can we solve the mystery sock thing?
I feel like that does happen a lot with these kind of things.
Uh,
I like the idea that it's a completely different planet.
there's a wormhole taking them there.
Yeah.
Well, I think they'd start off calling it a planet, and then they go, no, this is just an asteroid stuck in our gravitational loop.
Get downgraded like poor Pluto.
Yes.
And then re-upgraded to just a dwarf planet, I think, is what it
Is that what
was.
happened?
Yeah. It got like re-upgraded to a planet, but it's just considered like a dwarf planet or something.
Oh, okay. Probably because there was so much uproar about it.
I
Because
wonder.
that's how science works, Brandon.
It makes me wonder if that's really why they did that. But yeah, poor planets.
Poor
Okay, local
planets.
cat elected as school principal implements mandatory nap times for all.
Yes. And
Why
I think
nap
this
times?
happens.
Well, I guess cats are constantly taking naps, so fair.
If I remember right, there is a it's either a cat or a dog. There's a pet animal that lives at the palace or whatever they have in the UK where the royalty family usually lives.
Hmm.
Is it that? And then like every time, like it's the most consistent um person there, thing there. So it's essentially its house and its domain. I think it's a cat. I should find the details.
That's pretty great.
But but I think this sort of thing that like that happens where like animals will go and adopt a place. I'm like, no, this is my place now.
I mean, some animals are left places and as inheritance,
Oh, okay.
and they just like have a house, and they
Oh,
basically
that's
just have
right.
like a butler caretaker that just like takes care of them. They just live in this like bougie lifestyle for the rest of whatever their lifespan is.
I do like the mandatory nap time. It didn't say what kind of school. So like I think nap time's regular in like a kindergarten and young kids, but if this is like a university
Oh, that'd be
and
great.
and all of the uni students have to go do like a mandatory nap time. It's like a mandatory course or something every day.
That'd be pretty great.
I think that'd be perfect.
Well, at one point, there was like rumors of them trying to like implement a like basically a nap time for high schoolers, but it
Oh,
was like essentially like a 30-minute like rest period in like the middle of the day where you could like take a nap or just like lay down, relax. But essentially, it was like a just chill out and decompress your mind for a second in the middle of the school day. But
right. Oh,
I
because
never
they
heard
got rid
anything
of
actually
recess
happen
at
from
some point, right? It's before junior high. They're like, recess is gone.
it.
And, and then there's like your lunch break, but it's not the same because you don't have like the soccer ball you can take outside and like
Yeah,
like the organized hour of time to go and let off steam. It's just like eat fast and then you can go relax.
yeah, yeah.
But I remember they like in in high school they would not high school. It was actually just middle school, which was weird. They would force us all out of the building. Like we had to finish eating by a certain time, and then everyone who was done eating had to get out. And they had a guard,
Really?
the armed guard at the door, kept everyone out of the school for the rest of that period of time. It was like 30 minutes, but we had to be outside.
Oh wow,
I don't know
weird.
what was going on in there or what was happening, but like no one
Hmm.
was allowed in. So it became the game. So every day it was like this game of fugitive
And
to
try to
see who
like
could
stay
sneak
inside.
back into the school.
Oh, that's great.
Ah, good times.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. Secret Society of Squirrels found to be running global nut trade. Stock markets go nuts.
Go nuts. Oh no.
So punny.
Uh
Found to be running the global nut trade. You know, that just wouldn't surprise me. There's so many funny tropes of like the character suddenly learns or can suddenly like understand animals and accidentally happens across two squirrels who are like and finds out that the squirrels are like super intelligent or running the world or whatever. I feel like I've seen that a whole bunch in like
yeah.
cartoons
A lot of like kid
across the board.
stuff. Okay. Like the Planters Peanuts. Oh, it's Planters Peanuts is owned by Hormel Food Corp, and they are on the stock market. Okay. Oh, they're up 0.11% today. But
There we go.
there you go, squirrels. Okay.
Do you think if people discovered that like a corporation like that was run by squirrels, the stock market would their stock would like drop or increase?
I think that it would drop first, and then Reddit would figure it out and go, "Hey, everybody, go buy stock." It would be funny, and then everyone on Reddit would just go buy some stock, and it would, another GameStop would happen.
Probably.
I don't know how. So they're running the
The
nut
nut
trade like
trade.
between. I guess I don't know enough about trading. Probably international. So there's international squirrels also. So
Yeah.
they must
So
have
like,
some sort of technology in communicating and stuff like that. And like, so there must be
so.
boats and airplanes that are being flown by them,
Hmm.
and trade routes that are run by, or do they just control humans?
No, I think they just like they are just controlling the business, and us humans are transporting their goods for them.
There's a secret mystery CEO no one's ever met, and it's just
Yeah, it's
some.
just run by squirrels.
Okay.
It's not like a fully squirrel run operation. That's like an
Oh,
underground nut trade. I think it's just like the normal human nut trade of like just normal business, but it's just run by squirrels.
surprise. I mean, a groundhog runs Groundhog's Day, so
Yeah, true.
all right.
Okay, here we go. The man accidentally sets world record for longest time spent in a grocery store. Claims he couldn't decide on cereal. The amount of time I've just sat there in front of like the cereal in the cereal aisle trying to decide which one to grab makes me relate to this a little bit too hard sometimes,
There has been some times where I like, okay,
especially as a kid.
let's look at the ingredients. There's been a couple times in my life where I got nerdy about that, but like, what else? Is it just he's being picky over the flavors? Is that what happened to you?
I
Was
mean,
it
it was more of like which one like I only want to get one, but like am I in the mood for like a sugary cereal or for more of like a savory healthier one? And if it's a sugary one, am I like going full sugar? Am I going just kind of sugar? Do I want this to be more of a dessert or like my mind like goes through all these different things and I'm like trying to like make the quote unquote best decision for my money at that moment.
hmm. I think it's happened to me where like I'll go in there and like I'm really craving honey bunches of oats, and then they don't have it. I'm like, wait a second, where's? Oh, they're all out. Okay, what's a good substitute? Well, this is just bunches of oats.
Oh, yeah.
I could do that. Oh crap. Well, what else is there? Okay, frosted mini wheats. They're all right. They're not what I was craving. So I think that's probably the extent of what's happened. Like, okay, I still have this craving, but I can't satisfy it fully. What's gonna come be the closest
Mm,
substitute?
yeah.
How long was this guy in the grocery? Like, I think there's a Mr. Beast video of a guy spending like a long time. It was like 90 days or something like that in a grocery store.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that would
And
suck.
yeah, he had to he went into the back room. He like took down some of the shelves and like fabricated his own shower so that he could shower by placing the shelves into a cubicle area, and he ran a hose from one of the faucets, and like um he got really creative about everything, and he just
Yeah.
completely did every like Mr. Beast bought the grocery store and said, "Here, have at it."
Yeah.
And so he did whatever, but like I think it was only like 90 days. At some point, if this is just a normal grocery store, they don't really have 24-hour grocery stores very much anymore unless you're like in the middle of a city.
It's just Walmart, which
Yeah,
is
even then,
and you know a lot of times it's kind of 24 hours.
ours started closing really early. Ever since COVID, they're like, "Oh,
Oh,
we're
true.
shortening our hours," and then they never went back. That's so annoying. It's so stupid. Because we usually, when we go grocery shopping, it was always Saturday at like 1 or 2 in the morning, and we go get our grocery shopping done.
There you go.
Because no one else was there, and we could walk around, we could spend as much time as we want. Um, we goof off, but
Yeah.
that now we can't. Now we have to go when all the other idiots go. It's annoying.
It used
So
to be like like the last time I was there when it was really late, it was like harshly 24 hours and they kind of like half closed down the store for like stocking, for like night stocking, you know?
right,
It was weird.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
like they didn't like actually prevent you from going down some of the aisles, but like
There's pallets
there's like
and
pallets in the
stuff.
way and all the employees are like giving you the stink eye if you go
Hmm.
down those aisles and stuff. It was funny.
Yeah. So we'd have to assume that this is a 24-hour grocery store
Mm-hmm.
and that he's standing in one aisle the whole time and just like maybe walking back and forth and looking at boxes, picking up, putting down. So a lot of times the staff would come by and be like, can I help you with something? And I like wonder how many suggestions he got of like, well, I mean, I
This
like
one's
Cheerios and but
yeah.
he's like, what if he like? It's one of those things where the coworkers, everyone has a different opinion. So as soon as he's about to make up his mind, somebody else comes along and goes, "Oh, I wouldn't get that one.
Oh my
I
gosh.
I
Have you
would go for this."
there's I saw it on Reddit. It was this guy. He's like, I'd never seen someone stand in the aisle so long, but I watched this lady standing in front of the brooms in like the cleaning aisle of a grocery store, trying to decide which broom. And I no joke watched her for like 20 minutes trying to decide which broom. And then when she finally decided on which broom, I walked by and said, "Oh, I wouldn't get that one," and then just walked off. And I was like, I so want that moment to happen to me so I can do that to somebody.
That's the epitome of you.
I so want that to happen because she just was like instantly, oh shoot, and then spent probably another
Yeah, she was
at
like, "I've
least
got to
10
go.
minutes.
I've been here forever. I've just got to pick one. I'm just gonna go with it. Okay, this is the one." And then I wouldn't pick that
Oh,
one.
I wouldn't pick that one, and then just walks off, and doesn't give the opinion or like the reason why, and so she's like doubting everything about this broom.
Yeah, then you like examine. Well, what's wrong with it? I mean, it's plastic like the others.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so funny. I want that moment to happen to me. I'll have made it in life if I can do that to somebody.
Okay. What I have an idea
Okay.
where um we're gonna role play something.
Oh, okay.
And you're gonna role play as my boss. This is just we could pretend it's like a maybe like a tech job. It doesn't really exactly matter, but you are completely in charge of my role.
Oh,
You
great.
interviewed a bunch of people and I was the least idiot. I was
Okay.
I was the least worst choice. And so you made the decision to hire me and now I essentially work for you. Okay, that's how much control you have over the situation.
Great. I'm really
But
bad at
you
being a
do have a
boss.
CEO also. You have your own boss that has their stipulations, but like,
Yeah.
right? And at our place of work, we do have to go into the office. There's a dress code, which is essentially like business casual. Everyone's expected to wear slacks and like a shirt with a collar,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay. So this is the situation.
This is not going to go well.
It may not.
Okay.
You'll probably catch on where I'm going here pretty quick, maybe or maybe not. I
Okay.
guess we'll see. So I show up to work the first day, and I'm wearing jeans and just a normal T-shirt and a leather jacket, and on the back of the jacket is someone just giving you the bird. And
Okay.
so I walk in, hey Brandon, and I go over to where I work and I start whatever working.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of reaction to this?
First, I'd laugh, like probably just to myself because I find the shirt really funny. But then I'd probably be a little bit pissed because I know in the interview I mentioned the dress code
Okay.
and that you're very clearly just not doing it.
Okay.
And I'd probably go over and just like be like, hey, just like as a reminder, we have a dress code that we follow here. It needs to be business casual slash some kind of collar shirt. You're probably fine for today, but tomorrow I need to make sure you're following the dress code.
Oh
And I'd
yeah,
probably and I'd
okay.
probably like leave it at that.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, no, just I, I'm in the middle of doing laundry, so all those clothes were, dirty. But yeah, it's just a situation. Oh, for
Okay,
sure. Tomorrow, yeah, totally. Okay.
sounds good. And then I'd probably leave it at that for the day.
Okay. And then tomorrow comes,
Uh-huh.
and um, I am wearing slacks and a shirt that has a collar on it, but screen printed onto the front anyway is it's like a real life photograph of one man stabbing another man, and it's like gory and very bloody and like pretty disturbing to look at. Like you almost just don't even want to look at it because like, oh my gosh, this is the stuff you see in like the dark side of the internet.
Yeah.
I'm like, up, and I go to my place of work and I start working.
Okay.
How would you respond to this?
Hmm. I know there's right words. I'm trying to think of right words for describing why they can't have that graphic.
Yeah,
So
the
basically,
reason
come
you can just
down.
say word. You should say reason because reasons. Probably
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever.
I mean, yeah. Basically, we're trying to create a non-distracting environment where anybody can feel comfortable. And I could see the graphic on your shirt making some coworkers uncomfortable. Please keep it just like a normal, plain, no graphic symbol kind of collar shirt.
Hmm. I don't know if I. Okay. All of my collar shirts have were either words or images on them. Do you guys? Do you guys have any company shirts?
No.
No. No. Go buy one. Okay, I like
No.
that.
No, you need to go buy one. You're in a professional setting. You need to go buy professional clothes for the job
Okay.
position.
Okay. Okay, I will. I'll do that at lunch.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. So I go to lunch, I get a shirt, and I come back
Uh-huh.
and I'm wearing the new shirt.
Okay.
Um, okay. The next day, I
Mhm.
come to work. I'm wearing the new shirt and slacks again.
Okay.
Um, so everything's fine. Work day
Mhm.
ends. Next day, wearing the exact same shirt, exact same slacks again. Um, this happens for maybe a week or and a half, and I start to smell really bad.
Great.
And so I come in on this particular day, and I walk past you, and it's one of those you've smelled this before,
Yeah.
um, where you almost throw up in your mouth because of the
Oh
pure
God.
filthiness of the stench, right?
Yeah.
And I go over to my desk and start working. How would you respond to this?
Oh God.
I swear this is going somewhere,
Yeah. No, I believe you.
but
I
this
believe
is
you.
I have to build it up for it
No,
to make
I believe
sense.
you. There's a reason I shouldn't be manager because I just like don't want to like put on any political filter of like going through proper steps so I don't quote unquote offend someone.
Uh huh.
I would have to go over and be like, hey, you've got I don't know if you've been wearing the exact same clothes or if you bought some of the same, but your clothes are starting to smell, and I've noticed you've been wearing at least the same style, if not the exact same clothes every single day. Are you washing it properly? Because
My
you've got some
wash,
kind of weird smell coming off you.
well, it broke. I'm having a repair guy come over tomorrow because it's the weekend, and then he's gonna fix my it's my dryer. So all my clothes are wet, and they've been getting mildewy, and I can't dry them. I've tried hanging them up, but I don't have a big apartment anyway. But yeah, it'll be fixed definitely next week for sure.
Okay, I understand that things happen, but you need to take precautions to make sure things like this don't happen because it's getting to the level where I'd have to like possibly start bringing HR into it because things like this can't be happening.
Okay, very cool deal.
Okay.
All right, Monday.
Yeah.
I walk in, and all that I am wearing is
Mm-hmm.
swim trunks.
Okay. Okay.
That's it. No shoes, no socks, no shirt, just swim trunks. And I'm like, look, I have to go to the swimming pool afterwards for a family event, and I don't have time to go home and change and all that. So I just figured I'd just wear my swim trunks here. Like I approach you first, right? Because I know that this is the
Yeah.
wrong thing.
Yeah. I'd say absolutely not. This is not appropriate. I'm gonna have to send you home. You're gonna have to go change and fix this, and this will be a report to HR, and
Perfect.
possibly they'll discuss with you further. But no, I can't let you in the office just wearing this. Go
Okay.
home and change.
Okay. I do so, and I come back to work wearing normal clothes.
Yep.
Um, but
Okay.
when when you come over to speak with me halfway through the day,
Uh huh.
you saw me walk in the door wearing normal clothes, but I'm sitting at my desk butt naked.
What are you doing? I just
What?
I was like,
It's
what's going on? What are you doing?
it's just really hot. I got really hot, and so I figured this was the best way to cool off.
Yeah, this is not appropriate or allowed in any way. Go go put your clothes on and go home for the day.
Fine.
HR will be reaching out to you because that's just not allowed.
Okay.
And I'd be reporting to HR and possibly terminating his employment. That's just not cool. Can't do that at a
Okay.
professional
Would you
job.
go as far as firing him? Firing me?
If HR deemed it the right course of action, of like, do we need to allow him more steps to correct his behavior, or? But I wouldn't be fighting for him.
So, how did that feel?
Awful, because this has actually happened to me. Not this exact scenario, but like that same thing of like them just being the complete opposite level of incompetent that I thought they would be.
Right. So
You
you've
hate it and you feel
experienced this at
responsible.
work.
Oh yeah, with two different people, one of them that I still work with.
So I bring this up because I've been trying to find the right words to explain why I quit my job. And
Okay.
it's hard to explain it to the point of like to putting that feeling and that situation into words where someone just so blatantly disrespects the other person's wishes and rules and
Hmm.
everything they've like such disregard that it's like what else can you do?
Yeah.
And that's essentially what happened at my job, right? Was that
Hmm.
we had so many talks about how things should go, and then like in very specific meetings where we sat down and like, look, this is not right. We need to fix this. If it happens again, it'll be very, very bad. And
Yeah.
then it happened again, and it was bad. And I was like, all right, peace out.
Yeah.
I reverse fired them essentially. I fired
Yeah.
them, right?
Yeah. And it's frustrating when you've hired them or like worked with them in a position that should understand it, and then they like nod along with you as if, yeah, everything you're saying is making sense, and then they just can't or don't do it the right way. And you're like trying to figure out like maybe like a different way, because like in the technology space, in like the developer world, there's like
Mhm.
some base things you typically understand,
Right. Okay.
and like just like the way, yeah, there's just like a certain way of thinking that almost everybody in that field kind of thinks the same way, like does things the same way when it comes to like either setting up technology or setting up a program
Right.
to a
Like
degree.
there are standards, right?
Yeah.
For example, like the peer reviews or sorry, pull requests. Like those sort of things are pretty uh normal or regular that it's like is that what you mean? Something like
Yeah.
that?
Something like is regular, and like the sense that
You need to know how to do that to even do the job. Like
yeah, like there's like basic, like you need to be able to type on a keyboard to be able to do the job. Even like going down to like that level, like you need to be able to like type on a keyboard, you need to be
that
able to
happened to
turn on a
me.
computer and like run a program. You like need to be able to know how those things work, and you can't use those as, you can't use not being able to do that or messing up that as an excuse to not do your job. And it's
I
like it's
worked at a call.
amazing.
Sorry, you reminded me of something. One of the help desks I had worked at early on, when I was an L2, and like I had to walk around a desk and like people would have questions about things. And there was this guy, he had been there for probably about 4 or 5 years, but I still had advanced quicker than him, and it started to become obvious why. But like I was sitting there helping him, and one of the things was like, oh, so copy that and paste it over here, and he goes, copy. I'm like, yeah, highlight it and then do Control C. And he goes, Control. And he
Oh
looks down at
my
the keyboard.
god. I would lose my mind.
I, yeah. I remember that moment. Go, oh, this is why this is the only job you've had for the past 4 years, and you're just stuck here.
Yeah.
Oh, there
Um
was the other time I had to almost teach this girl how to read. It was really weird. But that's another. Yeah, so things like that happen. It's
yeah.
crazy how they end up getting hired.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a thing happening. Actually, we figured out how she got hired. Is that there was a service that would take people who are looking for employment, and they would teach them the answers to interview questions, so that they could answer all the
Oh.
interview questions correctly to get the job. And then once they're there, they
Just like
literally know nothing else.
fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Oh
Oh my
man.
word. Okay, so the developer environment. I sort of wanted to try to get into this
Yeah.
a little bit because I wanted to talk about completely shifting game towards game development
Okay.
and about balancing new items in a game and
Okay.
what goes into balancing sort of a new thing that's added to the game. And um so I've been playing Helldivers a
Mhm.
lot. My whole life is like Helldivers 2 and learning AI. So
Yeah.
that's all I've
Fair.
been doing. But so I guess you haven't played it, so I have to describe some of this a little bit.
Mhm.
Um there are you drop into a planet.
Yeah.
The planet is either um under attack by robots called
Mhm.
automatons or something like that. And then the bugs, which are called termines, we just call them termites.
Yeah.
But so depending on which planet you're going to, you take a completely different loadout because they have different types of armor, different whatever. Um, so you have a series of weapons you can take. You have a primary weapon.
Mhm.
You have a secondary weapon, usually like a handgun of some sort. And then your third weapon item is something that you sort of can call down from your ship, and it lands in this pod, and you can only summon it every so often.
Yeah.
Um, and when you die, that's the weapon you drop. You keep your primary, secondary, you drop your support weapon.
Mhm.
So they're kind of special. Um, they've been sort of designed to be able to handle harder enemies in different various ways.
Yeah.
So whenever we go to fight the termites, I'll take with me this thing called the recoilless rifle. It's
Okay.
essentially a rocket launcher, and um, it's got one shot, and then you have to kneel down. It takes like 4 or 5 seconds to reload this thing. You're wearing
Mhm.
this backpack that has a huge shell on it. You have to get it off and like jam it. Anyways, it's this whole animation that takes forever. And
Yeah.
you're kneeling down. You can't do anything else. I think there's a button you can do to like cancel it and get out of it in case you're about to be attacked. But like you're locked into this reload animation. But
Yeah.
that's been the best option for termites in handling their heaviest bugs with the thickest armor and stuff. On the other side,
Mhm.
with the automatons, there's another weapon. It's the autocannon. It fires a lot quicker. You don't have to reload quite as often. It has a clip, but its ammunition explodes on impact.
Mhm.
And it's a lot better to handle those guys. It doesn't work quite as well with the bugs. I don't know what the difference is with the damage types and stuff. There's something to it,
Yeah.
but so it's cool. It's a good balance. They want people to look at all the weapons available and like choose specific loadouts for specific scenarios.
Mhm.
And they've sent out tweets and stuff like that. That's sort of their goal. Anyway, one of the things they did recently, one of the big first patches, was that there was a shotgun everyone was using for their primary weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was just using it. And like, why is everybody using this? And it was fun. I
Mm-hmm.
loved it. There was nothing. I was enjoying the game. If everyone was enjoying the game, there was occasions where people try other sort of primary weapons or whatever. But I think in general, everyone fell back to this breaker. It's called a breaker
Mm-hmm.
shotgun, and they go, okay, this is where I need to sort of suss out what happens when they try to balance something, right? And they go,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we want everybody to treat their primary weapons in this way where they can don't feel like they're locked into a specific primary weapon
Yeah.
as a meta of some kind. Um, so I have my own fantasy vision of what happens in a game development environment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have any insight into this or what you think happens, but I imagine that like there's a designer and everyone's in the same room, and he goes, "Okay, guys, we got this problem," and they all pull out their laptops and they play the game, like six guys playing the game over, trying to understand the problem together, and then you go, okay, what solutions can we have? How can we fix this? And people pitch ideas because they're all familiar with the different mechanics. Go, okay, I think I could program this thing to do this. So the programmers have that mindset, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
baked into their brain of like, what am I capable of programming, and what am I not capable of programming?
Yeah.
To be able to say, okay, you know, cumulatively go, hey, designer, this is what we think would be a good solution that we could do and would take this much time and whatever they do all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And then they agree to it. But I get the feeling that's not what happens. And I don't know, do you have any insight?
A
Because I
little
think
bit.
you've been in more of a development situation than I have, more programming.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of different ways companies will, a lot of different ways they'll take on a problem like that. But when it comes to like identifying the problem, almost every game group has a mode of the game that gives them hyper details about everything that's happening.
Oh, that's okay. I've
They
seen
they
that. Yeah.
essentially have like a god mode version of the game where they can they can bypass any of the loading or like wall mechanics of like you can't access this zone yet or anything. They erase all of that and they can place themselves and any entity that they have in the game and in any scenario they want. They can place their quote unquote character in any scenario. And on top of that, they typically on the game, like have you ever hit I think it's like F3 in Minecraft where you get all like the stats and like
Yeah.
numbers and stuff like that?
Right. Exactly that. Yeah.
It's similar to that where they also have a whole bunch of extra stats. Your camera's frozen, by the way. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
and the game goes into extensive logging. So typically,
Right.
when you're debugging a software, you have standard logging that you can run during live and in production. It's usually a moderate logging level that does not impact performance. Because if you log something too heavily, you're typically impacting the performance of the software. And so you kind of have this like medium kind of general catch-all logging that is running in regular. But when you're going to like hard debugging mode, you can activate like a more intensive logging for a lot of softwares where it's logging a lot more of the actions, a lot more of the details about everything that's happening. Things like for weapons, the spread, the exact projectile, the exact like direction of all the different projectiles, where exactly on the enemy they're hitting. I mean, all these little details and like
Yeah.
stats that the player will never ever see. Like
True.
they get
I've
some of the
seen
stats of
this.
like fire rate and stuff like that, but they're getting like way more specific with their details. And so
Firefall would
in
let players get into that mode. I remember when there
oh
was
really?
serious bugs and you want to report a bug, like on the forum they said, yeah, do this thing. You get a console, you put in a command, and like you start seeing like the ray tracing of your bullets and like where the collisions are and like things
Mm-hmm.
like that, and you get lots of the extra data for sure. So there was at least one game I saw where like they would let you play around with that and see what happens with your
Oh, that's cool.
weapons to test them out.
There you go. And so
Yeah.
typically when you like run into a bug or the developers are play testing um a new character, a new weapon or whatever, they go into that like stats gathering and then they're comparing that. So I imagine for the example of the shotgun, they loaded up their like dev environment and were putting the gun through all these different scenarios and maybe some of their other primaries, and we're trying to see what were like the biggest differences
Mm,
and what was making it so desirable and OP, so to speak, like the go-to weapon. And we're trying to, and then at that point, I think maybe the
okay.
developers would like come to a point of like, here are our options. We can change this weapon, we can change all the other weapons, or we can attempt to change the enemies in some way. And then I think at
Right.
that point it becomes like a bigger, possibly larger group discussion or management discussion of like
Okay.
which path do we kind of go down. And I think that's where some companies make big mistakes.
Yes. I think
Um,
so too.
and there's some in my opinion good ways to do it, bad ways to do it, and sometimes the good ways to do it can offer other side effects.
Yes.
Like,
So,
yeah, okay, go for it.
what the result was
Mm-hmm.
is the shotgun ended up they reduced the damage output of the shotgun
Mm-hmm.
by a small amount. I think it still technically does a enough damage. Um, but they did reduce it, and you sort of notice it every now and then, like, oh, this bug took like 4 shells before, and now it's like 5 shells, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
but the more noticeable thing is they drastically decreased the clip size, so now you're reloading constantly,
Mm-hmm.
and they decreased that by like 5, but like that's a lot for ammo.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first thought that I had as soon as I got in there and started shooting this thing, I go, oh, here's what I think happened. This guy got a Jira that said, um, that make a change so that people aren't preferring this gun. And so he goes, well, I could do this uh, extravagant thing that takes 5 days. And he goes, okay, my Jira is worth 5 points. Or what he could do, he goes, you know what? I bet I could claim this is just a 1 point and fix this in 5 minutes. Claims this only takes me 1 day, but actually just get it done in 5 minutes by just going less damage and lower the clip size. Yeah, that'll make it less desirable. Right? Because
I
you gotta I think about the way Jiras are written, and sometimes they don't have enough detail. And so it might have been written in a way of like nerf the shotgun. And then the developer goes, oh, okay, this is easy. I'll nerf it like this.
For something that's that big of a change to a piece of software, I would be so surprised if that was just put into the developer's lap like that. The level of the ticket that you're talking about, I would be so surprised if that wasn't an architect's ticket and decision. So like
Okay.
management comes back and says, or like some other department comes back and says, "Hey, we got a problem with shotgun. We need to do what you said, reduce it, kind of fix it thing." And then the architect would sit there and try to decide, okay, we need to figure out how quickly they want it, what kind
Mm,
of level to the decision, and then the architect would make the decision. Okay, we're gonna reduce the clip size and reduce the damage. I feel like that might push this weapon from its peak down to the level of these other ones, and
mm-hmm.
then that specific Jira ticket is then handed to the developer, and then they go through and like one of them goes through the code of reducing clip size properly, another one goes through the process of reducing damage in all the right ways and make sure that nothing
Okay.
connects. But it would be like at a higher level than just like some random John Doe developer making that decision.
Okay. I feel like I've been in environments where there were developers making designers level decisions as they
Yes.
get the
Yes.
ticket. And so that's why I jumped to that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just like the other companies I've worked at where, someone thinks what happens is someone writes a bug, but sort of like bakes into it a new feature. I'm like, oh, this is the way it should have always been, sort of
Yeah.
mentality, right? So they try to classify it as a bug, to sneak this sort of change in there, and then it's up to the developer to go, oh, okay, well, I'll just do this,
I
or
think you
make the
see that
choice.
more so in regular software.
Okay, so was my fantasy about game development being this higher grade of development, is that like a, I really hope it's that sort of thing and not just Joe Schmo's going, oh, I'll just do this.
It's there's less decisions. There's less decisions in the like regular low level developer's hand in gaming, from what I've
Okay.
seen. Unless it's like a really
I
small
would agree with
studio.
that.
Unless it's a really small studio, then
Right.
maybe each developer is more of like an architect level developer, where
Okay,
they're
yeah, that makes
making
sense.
critical
I have
decisions on
seen
these kind of things.
games like that, yes.
But like when it when it comes to game development, it's very much so because the turnover can be really high, and it's a very grindy kind of like do what you're told, and if you're not, there's 60 guys behind you who will do the job for cheaper, so get lost. Kind of a job. That's kind of the space that game development is, especially for larger
Yeah.
studios. The developers at especially those game levels don't make decisions.
Right.
They do what they're told.
They get a ticket and they do exactly what's in the ticket and nothing else.
Yes,
Right. Okay.
because A, they have to do a lot of them, and B, they're just not given that level of discretion. And if they go outside of that box, well, they lost their job. That's barely letting them hit ends meet because there's 60 people behind him who also want that job.
Right.
So why would
Right.
he do something that would risk his
Compromise it.
risk
Yeah.
his living,
Okay.
which is kind of like a really toxic environment when it comes to development, which I think has kind of been in some cases fixed and become more transparent, and some studios are making bounds to make that better, but it's still that same level of the regular Joe Schmo developer is not making that level of decisions. They're getting a list of exact things they need to do, and they make the decision of the exact code that's going in to a point, but like the creative decision of what is actually happening is not being made by them. It's being made by a higher architect level developer with in conjunction with like a creative director and stuff like that.
I think that it's one of the reasons why I haven't pursued going into like a development, like strictly development course, for a career path, but is because I've seen the way developers are treated, and it's like their input doesn't matter at all. Like at all. They are literally just there to do a thing very specifically. And to
Mm-hmm.
me, I don't think I could enjoy that. I would need to go and sit in a meeting and help like drive the design and all the other choices by giving my opinion and then going and do the work. I think that's why my fantasy of it is like that, is because if I
It
was going to do the job, that's how I'd want it to be done.
it really depends on the job, because sometimes you do get that. It also
Mm,
depends on the size of the company.
mm.
And
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
like you might start off more of like the not being able to make decisions, and then you'll grow into like a team lead where you're
Yeah.
spending like 70% of your time developing and the rest of the time designing with the team, and you're telling your team members how to do things, and you're
Right.
making more of the creative decisions. Or you're like on a lot of teams that I've been on where you're like one of like three developers working on
Mm.
something, and so you kind of have to help make creative decisions. And then sometimes you have really good places where you're in a position to be able to make creative decisions, and management is asking for your input
Mm.
of like, hey, I want this kind of thing. And then you kind of go this back and forth of like, the classic saying
Right.
is management comes after you and says, I want this button. And the developer comes back and says, well, I understand what you're saying, but you don't really want a button. What you want is this little tab over here that switches something. Or you
Right.
want
Yeah.
this thing to just happen behind the scenes. You don't actually want a button, but I understand the thing you're going for. And so there's this like healthy back and forth of like figuring out what the
Yeah.
exact problem is and the actual solution between the product owner and the developer.
Yeah. That's the right way to do it,
That's the
what you
right way to do it.
described.
And there's some companies that encourage that and do that better. But there's a lot of places that either that process happens at a higher job title level, at like the architect level, and the like regular developers just don't ever see any of that, or they just
Hmm.
don't do that, and
Right.
you're just a machine that's supposed to crank out code, and you do what they say.
Okay. So they've decided to nerf this shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to bring it down to the level of all the other weapons. Now, thinking about it programmatically, that's probably the easiest way to do it if you're thinking of it that way. But it completely changed the experience because then um, there's
Yes.
none of the guns that feel as good as the time I was having. I was having a great time, and then I was desperately okay. I'll go through every single primary weapon again and try them in different scenarios to see if I have a new favorite for things. And none of them, they all perform at this lower level, and it's like none of this just feels good anymore. To the point where it's like, well, I guess I'm gonna go have dinner, right? And then you have somebody walking away from the game and closing the game.
Yes. I think there's this delicate balance that I think from the consumer view can be hard to determine, um, as to whether you ruin the player experience of said mechanic and bring it down to the level of everything else, or you elevate everything else up to the level of that mechanic, which can have
The,
other bad side effects of ruining the intended difficulty and experience that's supposed to happen in the game.
right.
And so there's this weird balance. And I think I I am of the proponent that in every situation you can, without ruining the core experience of the game, you should elevate everything else up to the cool experience everybody's loving.
Yes, I
And
agree
at the
with that.
very least, do very, very minor um,
Right,
changes to said mechanic. Very, very minor.
right.
I don't like the idea of taking something that everyone's been really loving that's not fully exploitive and is not destroying everybody else's experience
Right. Especially if you
and
don't
ruining it.
understand 100% of why they love it, because
Yeah.
you don't necessarily know why. And for all you know, that could be the core thing that's making your game successful was
Hmm.
that one gun and then poof. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think that wasn't the case, but like, so thinking back again to the support weapons and the way they're balanced. So I mentioned using an autocannon against the automatons. There's multiple weapons that seem to be just as effective that I'm going into and I'm playing with people using these.
Hmm.
There's this electric one that arcs. It does tons of damage, but you could accidentally kill uh, your friend because
Hmm.
it just arcs to the next thing. And there's been plenty of times where we've killed each other with that, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun. But like it works really well too.
Yeah.
And it feels just as good as using this autocannon. And then there's another sniper rifle that does something very similar to the autocannon. Um, but you have to be very pinpoint. It seems to do more damage, but without exploding at the end. But you have to be very exact. That's why it's a sniper rifle, right? And so they managed to get this feeling with all of the secondary weapons where they all feel great. Like they're on this great level, and you can truly choose the thing that matches your playstyle. And so going back to the primary weapons, I agree that I think it would have been much better to go, okay, how do we get the rest of these weapons up to the same level of this as this shotgun? Um, and honestly, one of the things is broken with it
Hmm.
that I don't think they realized what the problem was. Maybe I should write, I don't know, give them some feedback or whatever. But like, if I were to give feedback, it would be that the shotgun has an incredible amount of range. This particular shotgun. There are other shotguns that have a wide spread and are only effective within like 30 meters.
Hmm.
This particular shotgun can kill something about 200 meters away. it's on par with the other rifles that are your
Yeah.
primary weapons as far as distance goes. And I think that because it's like a shotgun style of damage, it just completely out damages any of the other rifles, so no one's using them. All you have to do, oh, I think I've seen that image before. All you have to
Yeah.
do,
I'm gonna relate to it in a second.
okay, is essentially change the spread. Like they should have left. My opinion is they should have left the shotgun the way it was, but like change the spread so it spread further. The spread was larger at like maybe 100 meters. So it's still a little. It's still longer range than the other shotguns that are meant for short range,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not as long range as the rifles that should go even longer. And then you get the people who want to actually shoot really long range, you know. Anyway, there was a way that I thought was the right way to handle it. And I think every player has their opinion of like, okay, this was the wrong way. But it happens in a lot of games. Unfortunately, it's like a very common thing to go, um, let's just nerf it because it's
Yeah.
the easiest solution.
Yeah. True. I can't remember what you said that triggered this, but
Okay.
there's this thought of like looking at the shotgun of like, hey, this thing is working. How do we quote unquote fix it so all the weapons feel good? And
Hmm.
sometimes it can be hard without like some of that data. And we're
Right.
assuming that the right decision is to change the weapons. There's a lot of discussion as to whether that's even the right decision. We're just going to go with the idea that the right decision is to change the weapons. To where you either go, hey, we nailed the way that this game needs to feel with the shotgun. Let's make everything else feel like the shotgun. Or, hey, we accidentally ruined the experience of the game that we're trying to produce. We need to bring the shotgun back so that's like the correct experience, like all the other weapons are. And the players just need to adjust and play the game that it's supposed to be. But like understanding which one of those two is correct could be hard. And it reminded me of this thing that happened in World War II
Okay.
where, and there's this image I sent you of this plane
Yeah.
where you look at that image and this is a heat map of where planes took damage. Okay.
Okay.
And this is
So
for planes that survived the raids and came back
survive.
alive.
Okay.
And so the engineers were given the problem of,
Oh no.
okay, how do we fix these planes
Oh no.
to fix all the other planes so that they come back alive? Okay. And so they're like looking at this data of like, and so a lot of the engineers were, for whatever reason, were going, well, all the damage is happening in these areas. So if we just reinforce these other areas, we'll have more planes coming back.
Okay.
Do
Oh, so
you
they did reverse that image,
so
sort
do
of
you agree
inversely.
with that? So like all the red dots, would you look at that as like a to make the other planes come back like this one? Maybe we need to reinforce like those areas where all the bullet holes are essentially.
Okay, no, right? Because
And
I
so,
think we both know what the problem here is
yeah.
that they don't have any of the data about the planes that didn't come back
Yes. Yeah.
and
And
where
so
they got
like
hit.
the actual thing is all those places that aren't hit on the planes that are returning
Those aren't vital
were
spots.
were
Is
so
what they should have
critical that
learned.
if they did get hit, the plane went down.
Right? They should have done the inverse of like the places they didn't get shot. You reinforce those.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And so it was like this weird it became this like super teachative problem that like every engineer has seen this and like gone through the story and like learned this in some class at some point because it's just like such a critical thing of like if you look at a problem, make sure you try to look at it from a different couple ways and make sure that you have all the data that you actually need to solve the problem before you try to solve it.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
I don't know, it's like one of those things of like they could be looking at it and be missing the part of like, hey, maybe we nailed the way guns are supposed to feel and we need to nerf or we need to buff everything up to the way the shotgun feels rather than just like the classic,
Yeah.
this is broken, let's reduce it back. I don't know. It
And,
feels like a similar problem to this like plain story of like,
right.
are
I
a lot of
agree.
developers missing a lot of the information and so they see what could be considered an obvious problem and just try to patch and fix that, or I don't
Yeah.
know.
And what happened was 2 weeks later, and unfortunately, this is all too common, and I hate to think that it was all part of their plan.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 weeks later, they added a new gun, and it
Oh,
became
okay.
the favorite because it was really good, and I still use it, and it's really good. Um,
Okay.
and so now they took the old favorite, nerfed it, released a new gun. They want everyone to try it, right? That's what I think, at least. And so it's almost feels like
Yeah,
they
maybe.
planned it that way to try to get everyone to play this new super powered gun, that we just released, and it's part of. It's not a real battle pass that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the currency needed to unlock it can be acquired in the game. There's no need to spend any real world money, but it's similar
Yeah.
to a battle pass. So it's just a grouping of gear that got released that you can unlock.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's like they just wanted people to use it so they couldn't have any competitors. Is sort of how it felt. And like it was like, oh, this is the old gimmick that we see everywhere. And it's happened so many times to me where they change the fundamentals of a game so drastically like that. Even though the new thing is fun, they've destroyed the old fun in the process. And I can't have both fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ha- have you ever, I don't know, does anything come to mind of like other games or anything like that that's done
Everything
something
you've
like
talked
that?
about so far has happened to be in Destiny, and one of them that makes
Okay.
me really, really upset because, in my opinion, they handled it completely wrong.
What is that?
So, in Destiny, as a Titan, you have a hammer,
Okay.
lovingly referred to as the bonk hammer. So, there's
That's
like a
right.
powered melee. So, you have like your normal melee in the game, and then you normally have like a powered melee that's like a higher damage version. And the flame hammer was one that you could throw, hit, and then if you retrieved, there was no major cooldown like a lot of the other powered melees.
Right.
Um, and the problem that happened is that you could spam it so quickly and boost its damage so much that you could just face tank bosses and murder them in one phase. So typically, you do all these mechanics for those people who don't know Destiny. You do all these mechanics to get up to like the boss is invulnerable until you do all these steps, get to a damage phase where you have a certain amount of time to do a damage, and then he goes back to being invulnerable, and you do all these steps to get back to another damage phase, and it kind of determines how long an encounter takes. And so, like a lot of people solo were just face taking bosses, just like spamming the hammer, doing these other things to boost its damage, and just destroying bosses.
Okay. Yeah.
But at the same time, there were some other melee abilities that were doing similar things. And so as a player, I get it. You don't want someone to just be able to face tank the boss completely.
Okay. Hang on. Let me pause.
Okay.
You don't want the. I would say, you don't want everyone choosing to do that, but not everyone is choosing to play the way you're playing that, right? It's like
Correct.
this weird meta thing, right? Where
Yes.
the people who are soloing put a lot of effort into it. They find this thing that's super powered, but it's not like everyone playing the game. So they go and make this change that affects everyone,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And uh, by trying to focus on this handful of people who are exploiting something, they go, okay, let's make it so they can't do that, but in the process, ruin everyone else's fun.
Well, it's like it's not even like it's ruining people doing it that way is not ruining everybody's fun.
Right? Who are they hurting?
They're not hurting anybody. They're not like destroying everybody else's experience in the game. They just found a really cool, fun way to fight things, usually solo. And to be honest, when you're fighting with other people, it's usually more fun to not do that.
Right? Yeah.
So
I
who
appreciate
who
that when I play
cares?
with you, that you let me fight things. So thank you.
You're welcome. But like, but to a degree,
Okay.
I can understand like wanting to make it maybe a little bit less. Like maybe take down the stats of the hammer and like melees like that to where maybe they can no longer do it in one phase super quickly. I get that. Maybe make it so that their damage has to take a little bit longer so that maybe they can successfully two phase it doing it that way. Kind of a thing.
Hmm.
To me that
Right.
kind of makes
Okay.
sense. I understand that. Of like having it too overpowered might like make the community feel like in order to be able to do it so they have to play a Titan with this exact subclass, so they have to do it this way.
Right.
I can kind of understand that. But
Okay.
instead
Yeah.
what they did Instead of doing like a little minor reduction and maybe boosting some of the other melee options that other classes have, what they did is, because they technically had two. There was another one with
But
called
Brandon, that's
Strand.
9 points of effort to do all that work.
There was two melees that were super broken. One of
Mm-hmm.
them, they made a change. It was the Strand that didn't really nerf it. It just made it a little bit harder to get up to that point to be able to do the mass damage. That's all they did to that one. They didn't actually nerf the damage it could do and the
Okay.
ability of it to just destroy everything. They just made it slightly more difficult to get to that point.
Okay.
Which okay.
All right. Yeah.
But like with the hammer, they made it so that once you throw it and you pick it up, there's like a 5-second cooldown before you can throw it again, which doesn't sound a lot, but count out real 5 seconds
In the heat of battle.
in the heat of battle, and it's forever. And it completely destroyed that way of playing, which,
Yeah.
before anybody says anything on the internet or otherwise, I get wanting to, like, if that's not the way the game is intended to play, destroying that option and changing the way to play. But Bungie, the developers of this game, are constantly telling Titans, which is the subclass or the class, that they're the melee characters that are supposed to be in everything's face and running around and hitting everything. They're constantly telling us that, like, yeah, you're supposed to be running around everything in everything's faces and punching everything.
Right.
You're the crayon eating punch person. You eat your crayons like a stupid little Titan and you punch things. They're constantly telling us that that's the way we're supposed to play, and we're not like the big super one-shot damage dealing from a distance kind of players. We're supposed to be in everything's face and like punching everything, and then they take away our abilities to punch things, and it's just like,
Oh.
it's like you destroyed this thing that was so. I mean, I still play that subclass and I still play that style, but
Uh-huh.
its enjoyment factor has been reduced
Oh
so
yeah.
so much.
They killed that
It,
part of the fun.
like, to the point where I was having so much fun playing these dungeons with this style that I was playing
Mhm.
them. I couldn't wait to log on to Destiny every single day and go through this dungeon and just hit everything with the hammer constantly. I
Yeah.
was, and then they did this nerf, and I was like, I didn't play the game for like 2 weeks. I was like so depressed that I couldn't do that stat anymore, that I was having so much fun playing. I'd like log on to Destiny and just like look around and be like, I guess I gotta figure out a different way to do all these different things because I can't do
Right.
this style anymore. And it's just like it just ruined this aspect of the game that they were almost trying to encourage but couldn't, because for some reason, I don't know if enough of the community complained that it felt unfair
Mm.
in some way, but it's like it's not affecting it. So
I
that's one of
mean,
those scenarios of like, I feel like they handled the nerf in such a
yeah.
bad way that it just destroyed the feeling of said mechanic.
And truthfully, it's not unfair because every class has their own way of becoming
Super
super
OP.
OP. And
Like
like,
the wizards, the warlocks have like their massive supers that
uh-huh.
like in their own right can one-shot bosses. They just murder things. You don't see that getting nerfed. The
Right.
hunters can dodge damage and sneak around so well, and I mean they have their own like insane ad clears and damage. They have their gun that just like their like golden gun that just one shots everything, and you don't see that getting super nerfed. I don't know.
How effective was the hammer build in PvP? Do you think it was very
Case
PvP driven?
it
This
could have
choice?
it could have been, except that they always have had separate rules for PvE versus PvE, PvP
Mm,
versus
yeah.
PvE. So like
The way you get ammo and like the abilities and how
the
you,
weapon
yeah.
stats are completely different. The
Yeah.
weapons act completely
Oh,
different
okay.
from PvP and PvE. Like they
Oh,
have their
okay.
own set of stats,
Oh, so they
so
could
to
have
speak.
just changed it for PvP if they wanted to.
If it was a PvE problem, they could have just been like, "Okay, in PvP, this thing does half the amount of damage," or
Hmm.
I mean, even if they reduced it to where like I can't like with an auto clicker throw the hammer so fast that I'm clicking it a gazillion seconds. If they added like a half a second cooldown,
Yeah.
that would have been better. But like
I,
the fact that
I
I can
saw
like
someone build a mechanical auto clicker out of Legos. It
that's pretty
was
great.
really cool.
That's pretty great. But yeah, I don't know. They just have so many options in their like arsenal to like change this, in my opinion, the correct way without like
Yeah.
destroying the way that felt. But then like leaving all of these other things that are similar still a problem.
See, and it always makes me think, because you feel like when things get done poorly like this, it always makes me feel like they just took the option that was the least amount of effort
Yeah, and in this one
instead of the smart
it
option.
really felt like that. Like they had like maybe they had a bunch of people complaining to them in like forums and stuff like that, and just to shut up that like small loud minority of people complaining about it, just to like shut them up, they're like, okay, the easiest thing to do is just to nerf the hell out of that. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, come on, it was so much fun.
And I guess the punchline of this is that the developers don't care how much effort it takes. You know who does? The project manager. They
Yeah.
care about how long it takes. So it's project managers that ruin everything. The end. There you go. If you have opinions, leave a comment.
Yeah.
You're human, right? You probably have an opinion. Click the buttons and all that. All right. See you again. Bye.
Bye.
And
Yeah.